Marcellus, do you have a problem with the way Michael Jordan's approach to politics?
I don't have a problem with it at all. Look, one, it worked. So it's hard to undress success and laugh or criticize it. Like, you got to let this man be his own man. And I think to a greater conversation, the best you can do in terms of social responsibility is take care of you and yours. And I think Michael Jordan did that well. You talk about this specific situation and a fully formed Michael Jordan who is even bigger than his identity of Michael Jordan, how he feels, because he has an image, he has a brand, he is an icon. He just can't accept all opportunities to try and make a greater good because of the individual nuance that comes from that experience. He doesn't know everything about everyone. So to go through that process, you get yourself in a compromised position if you're not fully vetting situations. And let's be real, in this situation, you may have great politics, but then you have a scandal. And then all of a sudden, Michael Jordan's wrapped up in all of that, even though it's for a greater good. So I look at Michael Jordan as a person who realized and was coached by David Falk that, hey, the best brand is to lay low, brother. Stay neutral. That's going to be the biggest and best for you. Your impact will come in different ways in terms of how you change people's imagination of themselves and how them being inspired by you will make them make more positive choices. So as I was told, when it comes to anything of social responsibility or charitable gifts, it's about time, talent, and treasure. He gave his treasure. He gave a donation. You don't always have to give all three T's. So he didn't give his time. He didn't necessarily lend his talent to it, but he certainly took care of it, and I think that should be enough.
Not only do I not have a problem with it, I appreciate it. I don't know when we got to the point where we expected athletes, particularly athletes of color with a big platform, to have an opinion and to be social activists and everything. I appreciate the fact that Michael said, I don't know the man. This isn't my lane. And that for me is as good as it needs to be. I think there's much more damage done when someone speaks out of turn and they are not aware of everything that's going on and they try to be an activist. They try to speak out. And I believe that does more damage than good. So for where he was then, for where he was in the arc of his career, whether it's then or now, I appreciate someone who says, look, I'm not qualified to speak on this. And we don't go to nuclear physicists. We don't go to Warren Buffett or Bill Gates and ask them for their opinions on who the best player in the NBA is. I'm not sure I understand why we often go to athletes and expect them to give us an insightful, intelligent answer on what someone should be or what someone should be doing in politics or any other field. If they do, if they can use that platform, terrific. But it's a double-edged sword. You have to be prepared to approach it in the right way.
Listen, I didn't understand Michael Jordan's reluctance to be involved with politics during his playing career as fully as I do now. I can't remember everything that I wrote about Michael Jordan at that time. So I want to be given a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But I certainly appreciate Michael Jordan having enough self-awareness of who he was at that time, a dedicated athlete, and not trying to be more than that. I think the media misrepresents who Muhammad Ali was, and we pretend like Muhammad Ali was active in a bunch of political issues, and it's a total mischaracterization of Muhammad Ali and the Nation of Islam, which had virtually nothing to do with politics, the religious organization that backed Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali didn't want to be involved in the war. He was drafted into the war, and he took a strong position on that. But to sit out here and pretend like Muhammad Ali was out here campaigning for different political people or whatever is a joke. I say this as a very mediocre athlete, nowhere on the same planet as Michael Jordan, and nowhere on the same planet as Marcellus Wiley. I remember being a very good high school athlete, and good enough to get a scholarship, football scholarship to Ball State. My focus was athletics at that time. I knew very little about the political world and the rest of the world all the way up until my athletic career was over. And then I started caring about some of the broader issues in society. And that's why many of my friends from high school and college sit here in amazement. Like, oh my God, Whitlock knows something besides the sports page? They are, if you go look at my transcripts, I was a virtual idiot in college. I got a 1.0 my first semester. I did not take school very seriously until football ended for me. Michael Jordan carried on with athletics, and he said last night, I was completely into athletics. I didn't know a lot about this other stuff. I've seen too many other athletes. They take political positions based on what they're told by someone else, not by what they really believe. I applaud Michael Jordan for staying in his lane and, again, using his money to support the issues he believes in, but keeping his mouth where his mind was, and his mind was on basketball. I respect the hell out of that.
Hey, to your point, man, I think this needs to be a grand lesson to all. Like, one, it's not just about what can you focus on, but what are you genius at? Think about that. Don't just start talking and mishandling situations just because you feel like you've made it. And what did you make it in? You didn't make it in politics, but now you're going to dive head first into politics. One of the most dangerous people walking this planet is a person who knows a little, but can say it to a lot of people. Think about it. You know this much, but your platform's so big, once you say it, everyone hears it. And a lot of people, unfortunately, will believe that. And it happens all the time with people who are not well-versed in situations. And good for him to walk away from a fight he's not properly prepared to win. And if you think about it, it's the same thing that happens on the streets every single day. The person who walks away from the fight is looked at and mischaracterized as being weak, when in reality, that's the strong one. It's like, nah, I'm good. I'm bigger than this. I'm better than this. I'm not ready to do this. Michael Jordan saw a fight that he wasn't prepared to do, and he walked away from it. But we're going to mischaracterize him as being the wrong guy. Meanwhile, someone who's in that fight misleading other people will actually be the one that we applaud and laud, which is insane to me. So I respect you, Jordan, for doing it the right way.
All right, very quickly, let's move on to the other topic covered in last night's episodes of Last Dance. Michael Jordan and gambling. And I don't think this was the greatest look for Michael Jordan. His sunglass-wearing interview with Ahmad Rashad, where he basically said, man, I ain't lost all my money. My family can eat. I don't have a gambling problem. I own a house and cars. Not the greatest look. Rick, quickly here, do you think Michael Jordan had a gambling problem?
No, he had a PR problem. I agree with you. The sunglasses was a bad look. The rationale he had for not having a problem was not a good explanation. But look, I know some people who have gambling problems, who have the addiction. His going to Atlantic City after game one before game two, going there with his dad and coming back at 2:30 in the morning or 1 o'clock, whatever it was, is proof to me that he didn't have a problem. Because the people that I know that have a gambling problem, they would not have made it back from Atlantic City in time for the game. They would have been still there, staying up all night. So the fact of the matter is, if I look, did it ruin his health? No. Did it ruin his career? Not that I'm aware of. Did it ruin relationships? Not that I'm aware of. There was some question about the people who he was hanging out with when he was gambling. But he said, and he says it in the documentary, I learned my lesson on that. And he was more careful, wasn't aware of who he was hanging out with. But that's a different matter than whether you actually have a gambling problem. I have no evidence that he did, in spite of how big it became.
Look, just listen to what we're asking. Does he have a gambling problem? That's actually being redundant, because if you gamble, that's a problem. Listen to me now. I'm a former gambler who doesn't gamble anymore. Inherently in gambling, taking a risk of I don't care if it's $1 or if it's $1 million is absurd if you think about it, because I will use myself as an example, who used to gamble, one day cold turkey, no more. I remember vividly days where I needed $1. Like growing up, you know, food stamps, welfare, mama got a couple pennies and some change laying next to the purse. I don't know, did I go in the purse and get the change out or did it fall out? Regardless, I needed $1. Fast forward 10 years, I'm in the NFL. I could gamble for hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. And losing sight and perspective, there was a day where all of this mattered. And now I've raised my floor to a point where that doesn't matter. So watching Michael Jordan play quarters in the corner, that's a problem. Hearing Michael Jordan owe a $57,000 check or $1.2 million to someone else, that's a problem. But gambling in itself is a problem. Did he have an extreme gambling problem? No. But let's not act like gambling in its core inherently is not an issue.
Listen, totally agree with you, Marcellus. I'm from a gambling family. My mother took me to a pea-shake house when I was a little kid. If you're from Indianapolis, you know what I'm talking about. My father and me, we'd go to Vegas and gamble. That's not a good sign, Rick. That means that me and my father had a gambling problem, and my mother and everybody in my family. I'm from a gambling family.
Right, everybody.
Marcellus is right. Gambling's a problem.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. And be sure to check out more of the best clips from Speak For Yourself, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.